The bond between my stepson and me wasn't written in blood but in moments. Late-night talks, stepmom says. They say blood is thicker than water, but sometimes it's in the quiet, fragile moments, when the world is still and hearts are a little more open, that true bonds are forged. My name is Claire Matthews, and I'm a stepmother. Still feels strange to say that out loud sometimes. Not because I don't feel it in my bones, but because for years that word, stepmother, came with a stigma. I didn't want to be the villain in someone's fairy tale, but I also wasn't trying to be a replacement mother. I was just a woman who fell in love with a man who had a past. And with that past came a 10-year-old boy named Ethan. The first time I met Ethan, he wouldn't look me in the eye. His arms were crossed so tightly across his chest that it looked like he was trying to squeeze himself into invisibility. His father, James, had taken things slowly, rightfully so. He didn't introduce me to Ethan until we'd been dating for nearly a year. When I walked into the living room that afternoon, holding a bag of board games and wearing my best, non-threatening adult smile, Ethan barely lifted his head from the tablet in his hands. That night I cried. Not in front of James, but alone, curled up in my car in the driveway, because even though I understood, it still hurt. I wanted to connect, and it felt like the door had been slammed before I could even knock. The early days were tough. Dinners were silent. Weekends felt long and awkward. I tried everything. Small talk, video games, even learning about Ethan's favorite YouTube creators just so I'd have something to bring up. But for months it was like living with a ghost. James reassured me. Give him time. He's just trying to figure things out. It wasn't until one random Tuesday night, when the power went out during a thunderstorm, that something shifted. James was working a late shift, and it was just me and Ethan in the house. I lit a few candles, pulled out a flashlight, and offered to make microwave s'mores once the power returned. Ethan just nodded, sitting on the couch with his knees tucked under his chin. A few minutes later I heard his voice. "You scared of the dark?" I looked up startled. "No, not really." "Are you?" He shook his head. "No. But I don't like storms." It was such a small thing. But for the first time I saw the child behind the wall. I sat beside him, giving him space, and we just sat there, the thunder rolling outside, our silhouettes glowing in candlelight. Eventually he asked, "Do you have any brothers or sisters?" I told him I had a younger brother, Sam, who lived across the country. I shared stories about us as kids, how we used to build pillow forts and stay up late playing card games when the power went out. I could see him listening, not just hearing me but listening. That night we ended up playing Uno by candlelight. And when the power finally came back on, Ethan didn't immediately run back to his room. He lingered. That was our first moment. From there, it wasn't like a light switch flipped and suddenly we were best friends. It was more like a slow, steady dawn breaking through. Little things. Like him asking me to help him with a school project about ancient Egypt. Or laughing at a joke I made during dinner. Or sitting with me while I folded laundry, just talking about nothing. We started having these late-night talks. They were never planned. They just happened. Usually when James was asleep, and Ethan couldn't fall asleep, or pretended not to. I'd find him in the kitchen, rummaging for snacks. I'd ask if he wanted tea or cookies, and we'd sit at the counter sipping hot chocolate or munching popcorn, talking about school, video games, YouTube drama, and sometimes his mom. He didn't mention her often, but when he did I listened. I never interrupted. I never offered my opinion unless he asked. And when he cried once, remembering the time she helped him with a Halloween costume, I sat quietly, letting him feel what he needed to feel. I didn't try to fix it. I was just there. That's when I learned one of the most important lessons about being a stepparent. Presence is sometimes louder than words. Over time, those moments became our thing. We had inside jokes. He started calling me Claire Bear as a tease. I started calling him E-Bug. He hated it, which is why I kept doing it. By the time Ethan turned 13, he started opening up more. He told me about a girl he liked in class. He was embarrassed at first, but I acted like it was the most normal thing in the world. We stayed up late one night brainstorming what he could say to her without sounding too desperate, as he put it. One night he asked me, "Do you think you and Dad are going to get married?" I blinked. Maybe. Why do you ask? I shrugged. Just wondering. Would that make you my real stepmom? Pause. Well, technically, yeah. But I'm not in a rush to put labels on everything. I just want you to feel like I'm someone you can count on. No pressure. He nodded thoughtfully. You're kinda already that. I didn't cry in front of him. But I wanted to. James and I did eventually get married. A small backyard wedding. Ethan stood beside his dad as best man, wearing a tiny suit and an even tinier smirk. When the officiant called me stepmother during the vows, Ethan whispered loud enough for the guests to hear. Officially now. No backsies. Everyone laughed. And I swear I saw a tear in James' eye. The teenage years brought new challenges. Ethan became moodier, more independent. He rolled his eyes more, grunted more, and seemed permanently glued to his phone. There were times we clashed, over curfews, messy rooms, and questionable TikToks. But even when he was mad, he never stopped talking to me. One night, around 1 a.m., I heard the soft knock on our bedroom door. James was already snoring beside me. I opened it to find Ethan standing there, looking unusually pale. I can't sleep. My chest feels weird. We went downstairs and I made him tea. We talked it through. It turned out he was having a panic attack, something he hadn't experienced before. I stayed with him the entire night, just helping him breathe, reminding him it would pass. The next morning he hugged me tightly. Thanks, Claire Bear. You helped. Another moment. There was a time he got into trouble at school. A fight with another kid who made a cruel comment about his mom. The principal called me since James was out of town. I picked him up, silent on the ride home. He was angry, fists clenched, jaw tight. He expected me to yell. Instead, I sat beside him and asked, "Do you want to talk or just sit for a while?" He broke down. I didn't want to hit him. He said she didn't love me enough to stay alive. My heart shattered. I pulled him into a hug. That's not true, Ethan. None of what he said is true. I can't imagine what that felt like, but I do know your mom loved you. You're allowed to feel angry. Just don't carry someone else's ignorance with you. Later, I found a folded piece of notebook paper on the kitchen counter. In his chicken scratch handwriting. Thanks for not making it worse. You always make it better. Years passed. He got taller. His voice deepened. He started driving. He went to prom. And when college decisions rolled in, I was the one he woke up at 6 a.m. to say, "I got in." James and I helped him pack. On move-in day I expected tears. But Ethan, being Ethan, just gave me a side hug and said, "Don't go crying on my dorm floor, Claire Bear." We got